What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. We've had quite a few crazy things going down the last couple days for UFC 294. A lot of drama, a lot of changes, stuff with USADA disappearing and whatnot. But let's not let that distract us from the fact that we've got a killer fight night this weekend. UFC Vegas 81, Sadiq Yusuff, Edson Barboza. Fantastic matchup. I'm excited for it. There's a few other fantastic matchups on this card. So I'm going to get into it, break it down, and give my predictions. First fight I want to predict, Christian Rodriguez and Cameron Simon. Now, this is one of the banger matchups that I was talking about because this fight, in my eyes, is pretty 50-50. Both these guys in the grappling department are very close to each other. And we saw the way Simon was able to dominate a guy like Terrence Mitchell, and we saw the way that Christian Rodriguez was able to dominate a guy like Raul Rosas Jr. These guys were actually supposed to fight at UFC 290 as well, if I recall correctly, but Christian Rodriguez had to pull out due to an injury, unfortunately. Simon, however, stayed on that card. That was where he had the Terrence Mitchell fight. So that already starts to put Simon looking a little bit better, a little bit more active, a little bit, not injured, not coming off an injury into this fight, And when it comes to the skill department, like I already said, I think they're grappling. They're pretty 50-50. However, I do feel like that Simon edges him out in the striking for sure. Just more technical, more powerful. And that's also one of the big things for Cameron in this fight is his power. I think he has a much more aggressive style. I think he chases a finish a lot more, which is obviously usually a double-edged sword. But I think in this fight specifically, it's going to lead to Simon being able to have the aggression and the grit to just kind of force better positions for himself in the grappling, get bigger shots off, and obviously I think he's going to look a lot better than Christian Rodriguez in the stand-up. So I think anytime it's standing, he's going to be getting the better of the exchanges. He's going to be landing harder shots, better combinations, and on the grappling, he's going to be able to scramble out of any situation. I don't really see Rodriguez getting any sub attempts off on him. And, even if Rodriguez does get a top mount or a full mount at some point, I do see Cameron Simon fully being able to get himself out of that position, get up against the fence, get his legs under him, or just even pull a reversal of some sort. I do think very highly of Cameron Simon. He's one of the most exciting prospects in my eyes at the moment, and I think he's got a lot more momentum than Christian Rodriguez. He's a bit of a bigger name. I think it's kind of his time right now a little bit. And, not to be a dick to Christian Rodriguez, but that's just kind of how I see this fight. I'm going to take Cameron Simon by a decision. I don't think he quite has the finishing power to put away Christian Rodriguez, and I also think Christian Rodriguez will be good enough that he's not going to get dominated in really any sense. He's just going to get out-techniqued, out-skilled, out-pointed a bit, and it's going to be a comfortable decision for Cameron Simon, but nothing too embarrassing for Christian Rodriguez. Moving up, we have Edgar Chairez and Daniel Lacerda. This is a rematch from their first fight that they had at the Mexican Independence Day card. If you guys remember, Daniel Lacerda got caught in that guillotine by Edgar Chairez. The ref went to grab Lacerda's arm. Lacerda's arm dropped as if he was out. Ref called it off, and immediately Daniel Lacerda went to protest. In my eyes, that fight should have just been called as a submission win for Edgar Chairez, especially given Lacerda's record in the UFC already. He was going into that last fight on a 4-fight losing streak, all by finish. So it makes it really hard for me to believe that he wasn't getting finished again right there or wasn't about to get finished again right there. You know what I mean? And, not too much has changed since that fight. It hasn't been too long since that fight went down. And given how that first fight played out, what Lacerda's record is, how Chairez has been performing in his other fights, especially against people like Tatsuro Taira, I just have no real reason to pick Lacerda at all. And I am going to take Chairez by a knockout. I think he'll get the finish, but I think Lacerda will be a bit more wary of the submission now, especially given the way he got caught the first time really badly in that guillotine. He can't let that happen again, and I think Edgar will want to be a little more emphatic with the finish this time and really be like, you can't fake tap to a knockout, obviously. So that's where I see this fight going. I don't even know why Lacerda's still in the UFC, honestly. As soon as you're on a 4-fight losing streak, all by finish, I think it's time you get cut. So That's just how I see this going on. I don't know why Lacerda's still in the UFC. Hopefully Edgar Chairez doesn't have like some weird one-off performance that's just absolutely awful and can show us some of what he showed in the Tetsuro Taira fight, because he looked pretty good in that fight despite losing. Moving up, we have Andre Petroski taking a short notice fight against Mikel Pereira. Mikel Pereira was originally supposed to fight somebody else on this card. Oh, Marc-Andre Barriault. That was it. They were supposed to fight. Barriault pulled out. Petroski's in. And there's no way to sugarcoat this. I'm taking Pereira by a TKO. Petroski looked not good in his last fight. I know GM3 is the GOAT, but that kind of performance just doesn't give me confidence in a guy like Petroski. You know, I didn't start watching that fight until the third round is when I tuned in, and I remember watching that thinking, God damn, Andre's getting his ass kicked. Like, GM3 is cooking him. So that's just not a good sign, especially, like, all jokes aside, GM3 is old. Andre should not be putting up a performance like that against a guy like GM3. And Mikel Pereira is also, this is his middleweight debut, moving up from welterweight. And, you know, anybody in those lower weight classes, even if you're just one weight class below, is automatically just that extra level of more technique, a little more speed, a little more skill. And Pereira was already big for welterweight, which makes me think that he's not really going to have any problems with size or power or strength. And if anything, he's just going to carry over all of his welterweight technique and speed into this fight. Especially, he's been in training camp. He knew he was going to have a fight. In my opinion, Andre Barriault was a much more difficult fight for him than Andre. In fact, I probably was going to take Andre Barriault over Pereira in that fight. But it doesn't matter now. Andre Petroski's in. It's only been like 2 months. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's only been like 2 months since that GM3 fight, and he's taking this fight on short notice. So there's just a lot of cards that are stacked against Andre right now, and I don't have enough reason to take. He didn't show me anything in his last fight that gave me confidence in picking him on a short notice fight like this. So Mikel Pereira by a TKO probably. I don't think he's going to flatline anyone. Moving up, this is probably my favorite fight on the card, with maybe the main event being the exception. Jonathan Martinez, I went and watched some of this guy's footage when I saw this fight was going down, and man, this guy's really impressing me. He looks good everywhere. That decision win he has over Said Nurmagomedov is impressive as hell, because it was a legit decision win. It's not one of those ones where you're like, how the hell did they give him it? You watch it, and you completely understand it. He was getting the better of a lot of grappling exchanges. Maybe not all of them, but definitely a lot of them. And in terms of on the feet, he held his own and then some, piecing up Said, showing really good defense, good creativity too. Yanez, you know, there's not much reason to pick against him, I feel like, other than how hard he got bodied by Rob Font. But I feel like I just have more reasons to go with Jonathan Martinez right now. The only big difference between these two guys, I feel like, is just a matter of how quickly one went up the rankings versus the other. It's not necessarily a skill difference. Like, Adrian Yanez is so much better, and that's why he went up so much faster. It's probably more just he's probably getting a couple more finishes, you know, so they started promoting him a little bit more as a better prospect. But then he gets flatlined. And I just think Jonathan Martinez, like, his wins are better right now, I think. He's got more momentum. It's kind of like Yanez needs to recoup and recover, and I don't think this is a good fight for him to do that. I think Martinez is too hard of a matchup. Martinez is too good everywhere. Yanez's boxing style isn't going to be able to deal with it because Martinez's defense is on point, and he's going to be able to hit him before Yanez does. So I'm taking Martinez by a decision. I don't think Yanez is going to get flatlined again, but I don't want to rule it out because he got knocked out pretty hard in that last one, and we'll have to see how he shakes the cobwebs off. Now, finally, the main event, we have Sodiq Yusuff and Edson Barboza. This fight is also pretty 50-50 in my eyes. It's a fantastic matchup. These guys are both really good fighters. Sodiq Yusuff, much younger, on the come up. Edson Barboza, obviously we all know him, veteran of the game, absolute killer, still killing people to this day. It's insane. Look at his physique. This man has not lost an ounce of testosterone in all of these years. If you guys have seen the recent photos of him looking like he's a 205er or a 185er in the gym, like, Edson's looking good. And Sodiq is coming off of a year-long break because he had a spinal injury that required a surgery in his back, which as soon as I hear a back surgery, especially on a guy this young and stuff, I don't like it. You know, when I hear the way people like Daniel Cormier talk about how they were affected by their back surgeries and how they wish they had just waited and not gotten it and how it affected their performances, that looks really bad for Sadiq, especially with, it's been a year off. He doesn't exactly have some of the most impressive wins. He's got a few finishes, but he's not out here doing it to everybody. He's mostly winning by decisions. Edson Barboza is coming off of that knockout to Billy Quarantillo. He didn't really take any damage on himself in that fight, which is huge, especially at his age. He's coming into this fight much fresher than he usually comes into fights. And he's warmed up, he's been active. Sadiq has had a while off. And in a 5-rounder, Edson's been in the main event. He's been in the spotlight. He's had these 5-round fights over and over and over again. This is Sadiq's first time. And I'm not going to say he's going to crack. I mean, it's not like it's a huge spotlight. It is a more minor fight night, all things considered. But I think, the 5 rounds, the main event stage, it's going to affect him for sure. And we've never seen Sadiq in a 5-round situation. And I just think over the course of 5 rounds, neither of these guys have particularly good chins. Sadiq's not the best of chins, and Edson, we all know over the years, has not shown to have a granite chin. But over the course of 5 rounds, I think there's only one person I trust to get the finish, and that is Edson Barboza. Because I don't necessarily see this fight going to a decision, especially not one that's in Sadiq's favor, because I don't think he quite has the cardio to hold up for the 5 rounds. I don't think he's ready for the 5 rounds that much. This definitely seems like a fight that was originally meant to be like a 3-round co-main or something, and they probably just couldn't find something to fill the main event slot, so they said, screw it, here's you guys. And yeah, I mean, I just think 3rd or 4th round probably, Edson's going to wear on Sadiq too much. He's going to be taking too much damage. Sadiq's not really getting much back off him, and Edson's going to find it. He's just going to get he's going to get some nice solid leg kicks in. He's going to get good body kicks. Might get him with a head kick towards the end. Sadiq's not bad with his boxing. He's got all right leg kicks, but when you put him up against somebody like Barboza, who's just like one of the greatest kickers in UFC history, it's really hard to go any other direction. So those are my picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 81, you guys. Let me know what you think I got wrong, what your predictions are, and thank you for sticking around watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and stay violent.